What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're pumped for the Dallas Cowboys to finalize their 53-man roster. It is Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. It is 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. In the next hour, the Dallas Cowboys, like every single team in the NFL, have to be down to 53 players on their roster. We are here to track everything that happens over the course of the next hour and discuss the 53-man roster when it is set. I say we because I am joined by the one and only, the incomparable, the legendary Tom Ryle from bloggingtheboys.com. Tommy boy, how goes it?
Oh, I'm ready to get into this, man. This is this time of year when it's all one step closer to the regular season. This is the first draft of the roster. It will be edited, possibly a lot before they kick off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But we're starting to find out some things already with the cuts that have already happened.
Right. So some important notes as we get started. We're going to be here, like we said, for about 2 hours. Obviously, there's now less than an hour left until the roster deadline, Tom. But and we'll be here once the 53 is set. But, you know, this will be billed as the final 53-man roster. But that final is in some very loose air quotes because, well, you know, there are going to be a lot of changes. We're going to see the Cowboys place players on injured reserve. We're going to see them cut some guys. We're going to see them bring some players back, etc. It's always kind of a jump rope of a situation when it comes to the NFL. You know that better than anybody.
Yes. A lot of things that could happen, some open questions. Are they really happy with their number 2 quarterback since they're down to 2 running backs? Are they going to be looking for someone to fill in as a third? And that's just with what we know so far. There's going to be more things coming up as the rest of the cuts, and they get down to as you said, a rough draft 53-man roster. And we know that 6 of the players on that roster are probably going to go right to IR. Then they've got the COVID players who are going to come in to fill some of those spots. So
let's take a look, Tom, to your point, at where the roster currently stands for the Dallas Cowboys. These are players who count against the roster right now. Tom mentioned the reserve COVID-19 players, Carlos Watkins, CeeDee Lamb, DeMonte KZ, and who am I missing? Oh, Connor Williams are the 4 players on the COVID list for the Cowboys. They do not count against the roster, so they are technically not on the roster at this particular moment in time, which is why you don't see – I got a lot of comments, Tom, saying, oh, where's CeeDee Lamb, blah, blah. The players who are crossed out in red have been cut at this point in time, and we will update this as we move along. It's going to be kind of a behind the curtain sort of show as we figure things out. Tom's got his dog definitely wants to be part of the production. But the Cowboys so far, and again, it is currently 2:05 p.m. Central Time, have said goodbye, Tom, as you say hello once again, to Garrett Gilbert, Ben DiNucci, Brendan Knox, Jaquan Hardy. So they are now down to 2 quarterbacks and 2 running backs. 2 wide receivers are gone in Brandon Smith and Osiris Mitchell. Isaac Alarcon not going to make the 53-man roster. He's been a great story, somebody who's been fun to watch on Hard Knocks, but never seemed like he was actually going to make the team. But he is going to be on the practice squad, so I don't think anybody has to be concerned there. Eric Smith and Braylon Jones also have been cut by the Cowboys, as has Rondell Carter on the defensive line. That might be the most surprising one. I'm curious to see what you have to say about that, Tom. Austin Feulu also given the boot today, as has been Deontay Burton, Darian Thompson, who I think is a candidate to return after the stabilization sort of takes place, Tyler Coyle, and Stephen Parker. So we have more cuts to go. We'll be here throughout the duration of it all. We'll be updating this as we move along. But Tom, your thoughts kind of as we stand. The day got started with Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert getting cut, and there were a couple more that trickled in, but it has kind of slowed. The Cowboys might be really taking this last hour to really think things over.
Yeah, and also there's the fact that I don't think they're going to announce anything until they've had a chance to sit down with the player, which is a one-at-a-time thing, which might have a little bit to do. I suspect that they've been informing some of these players, but they've held off on releasing them until, the last hour. And it is noted, you mentioned that Isaac Alarcon is going to be back on the practice squad because of his exemption. I also believe that I saw them mentioning Darian Thompson and possibly Stephen Parker as candidates to come back, and I believe Osarius Mitchell is also looked at as practice squad candidates. So they're already getting an idea. They already have an idea of who of their own they want to bring onto the practice squad, and they're also likely to be out there looking at the waiver wire because, as I said, there's some positions they might be interested in. Are they really that happy with Cooper Rush? Jerry Jones seems to think so. I don't know that I do, but that's, it's going to be interesting to see. A lot of things are going to happen, and of course, 24 hours after the waivers are done, that's when we have the practice squad signing. So we're going to have this rash of activity there coming up tomorrow. So it's an exciting couple of days. Of course, a lot of people are really taking a shot to the gut because this is at best an interruption to their NFL dreams.
Right. No, I think that's well said, Tom. And it's exciting because football's here. We are now single-digit days away from the regular season. So this is kind of the last hurdle to climb to get over. By the way, we do have Artavius Lynn as a cut. He's not here on our graphic. We'll get that fixed for you. Like we said, this is a bit of a different show as far as how we normally operate here at Blogging the Boys because we're moving as the system kind of, goes along. But Artavius Lynn has been cut. So one tight end now gone, Tom. But it's exciting. Joe Saviano asks only 2 running backs. I don't think this is shocking. I mean, personally, I know that Jaquan Hardy had a lot of fans, people rooting for him, but it never made sense that they were going to carry a third, just like it never made sense that they were going to carry a third quarterback on their team either. But yeah, so let's see here. We've got Artavius Lynn on the graphic now. I apologize to everyone because I'm gonna be looking off screen a lot, Tom. I mean, I know you want me to look at your face, because you're beautiful. But we've got to stay updated, and so I'm also we're proud of the band that we have here at Blogging the Boys. So we've got to update our tracker for everybody who pays attention to that. So we've got a lot of things going on, which is why we're here to hang out. So we're all kind of here to experience this together. We appreciate everyone who is joining us here on the live stream. But you mentioned it, Tom. We're a little bit, kind of getting our thoughts together. There are some names with asterisks on this chart. If you are, I don't know how you would be listening to this, but so for everyone who is watching this, we have tight end Sean McQuaid. We have offensive tackle Josh Ball, the rookie. We also have defensive tackle Neville Gallimore. We also have wide receiver Malik Turner. We also have, I'm forgetting one here. We have Francis Bernard, who have had the hamstring injury, still back in late July. And we also have second-round pick Kelvin Joseph, obviously a corner. The 6 of those players, ESPN's Todd Archer intimated today that they might begin the season on injured reserve. In order for players to be able, Tom, to be eligible to be brought back from injured reserve and to play this season, and more importantly, in the case of somebody like Josh Ball, to be able to practice this season, they have to be carried on the initial 53-man roster. So players that have already been put on injured reserve, like Rico Dowdle, like Reggie Robinson, they cannot practice. They cannot be brought back. So the Cowboys have to carry these players now, put them on injured reserve after the fact, and then pull them back, the old IR boomerang there. So your thoughts there, Tom? I mean, it's a bit of a bummer that Kelvin Joseph's going to be out for some time. Maybe potentially it's not confirmed, but that is something to monitor at least.
Yeah, to me, it does kind of maybe solve the issue. Did they have to make a choice between Sean Wright and Maurice Kennedy? Maybe now they don't have to, at least temporarily. It also fits in because I believe you said it's a total of 4 on the COVID list currently, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct, yes. You've got CeeDee Lamb, Carlos Watkins, Connor Williams, and DeMonte Casey, which is why their names are not here.
Yeah, so those 4 will essentially plug in for 6 of the IR guys, which means that the Cowboys will be down to 2 people to sign to the 53-man roster.
Darian Thompson could be one of those people they bring back hypothetically. We've seen that a lot. Yes. And the trick with this, Tom, we know the Cowboys like Darian Thompson. I know there's a lot of people who don't. But we know that they like him, and so they will cut guys who they feel comfortable with not being poached by other teams. The people that they're cutting, for lack of a better word, are expendable. DJ Dog 31 says, looking at Ralston, Fehoko, and Anai, Carter cut could affect what happens with Simi. That's right. I mean, we'll see here. But as of now, Nick Ralston has, been somebody who a lot of people have been fond of. We'll see what he ultimately, if he makes the initial 53, if they decide to gamble with him a little bit. Bradley and I is somebody I know. Jeff Kavanaugh of 105 The Fan tweeted yesterday that Bradley and I and Brandon Knight could maybe be moved. We've seen some, moderate trades in the NFL over the last 48 hours or so. Simi Fehoko, Tom, we all did 53-man roster projections at bloggingtheboys.com. You and I were part of the group that did that. And of the 6 of us, only one projection had Simi Fehoko making the team. I think we've all backed off of the you can't cut him, somebody's going to poach him sort of thing. I threw out, Tom, on the video that we did here on the YouTube channel with a 53-man roster projection. Maybe the Cowboys have purposely not hyped him up in the preseason, so as try us to sneak him onto the practice squad. Am I just too big of a conspiracy theorist?
Nah. I think they're going to try a shot at Fehoko on the practice squad, because, like you said, I don't think other teams are going to be willing to sign him to their active roster. I think a lot of people would love to have him on a practice squad, which means if he's unhappy with the situation in Dallas, he could go somewhere else. But, Jerry Jones is not shy about saying, look, we can pay above the minimum for practice squad players.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he's one of those players who would get very close to the rookie minimum on the practice squad, which is, a good motivation to stay. And in looking at, you notice that we may have the safety room right there.
Donovan Wilson, Jaron Kearse, Malik Hooker, Israel Mukuamu. Yesterday, Kearse, Tom, I know you saw this, had a tweet that said, "This sucks." And everybody was kind of like, whoa, what does this mean? Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News tweeted out, this was yesterday, that he hadn't been cut, that there was no reason to freak out. Maybe he meant, he was bummed that Stephen Parker was getting cut, that Darian Thompson was potentially being played around with. Who knows? But let's see. We'll see what's happening. By the way, I believe, Tom, we do not have Johnny Dixon as a roster cut on here. We're getting this fixed, so we'll make sure to update that. But Tom, I do want to ask you while we're here, while we update our chart, and shout out to our fantastic producer, we've got people working all over the place, Tom. I mean, Blogging the Boys is truly prestige worldwide, and shout out to everyone who's hanging out with us here as we track all of the roster cuts that are happening around the NFL. But this morning, Tom, Ben DiNucci cut, not a surprise, I don't think, by any stretch of the imagination. But Garrett Gilbert was also cut by the Dallas Cowboys, and that means that Cooper Rush has won the QB2 job. Your thoughts, if you are hanging out with us in the comments, your thoughts on Cooper Rush being QB2 for the Cowboys. We will get to Johnny Hekker, by the way. That is a subject I want to touch in the time that we're going to be here live. But Cooper Rush, Tom.
Yeah, I would amend that to Cooper Rush wins the QB2 job in Dallas for now.
Yeah, Tom actually made life difficult for us when we filled out our 53-man roster projections. He was the only person when we filled out quarterbacks who literally wrote in its little, Google Sheets cell, Cooper Rush until somebody else is signed. So we had to clean that up, Tom. Way to go. But, go ahead.
Well, hey, it's just my lovable and cuddly personality coming through. What can I say? No, I would not say it's definite that he will be replaced, but I just think they are going to have to think about it at least to a certain degree. I just don't know that he's the guy that you are feeling really good about rolling with. But then, as the famous saying goes, if we lose the Dak Prescott, we are in a lot of trouble. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that does wind up playing out. But I think that they might look at it. It was brought up today that if you're going to sign a backup quarterback, you might want to wait until week 2, because if you sign him for week 1, his salary is guaranteed for the year.
Right. That's the case with all veterans. And so we've seen teams, pinch pennies, so to speak, over there, Tom. Before we get to Johnny Hekker, because everybody's going to ask about this. Well, first of all, John the Grace asked, what do you think about Will Greer, was waived by Carolina, has a relationship with Doug Nussmeier, Cowboys quarterbacks coach? I'll be frank. I am not high on Cooper Rush. I find it, I'm not We released an episode of the 750 earlier today on the podcast feed, Tom. Tony Casillas and I, by the way, here at Blocking the Boys, we do a show with Tony Casillas every week. And I'm not trying to be Chicken Little. The sky is falling. How could the Cowboys do this? They're so dumb, whatever. But they prioritized Garrett Gilbert over seemingly anybody, right? Because he had an okay game against the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like that's literally, that was the driving motivation behind believing in Garrett Gilbert as, the guy. And I'm fully in agreement with anybody, Tom. I know you've seen this take floating around. If Dak Prescott goes down, the season's over. Totally true. If Dak goes down for like 10 games. But what happens if Dak goes down for like a month? What happens if Dak has to miss a game or 2 games or something like that? I don't think that Cooper Rush can go 2-2. I mean, Cooper Rush has played 4 seasons in the NFL. He's an undrafted free agent at Central Michigan. He's thrown 3 passes in the NFL. I was
going to say playing in the NFL is a very loose use of that term because he's barely seen the field.
And so, I mean, I have a hard time believing that Cooper Rush could be that guy. And I think it's a really arrogant way to approach this. It's a really hopeful way to approach it, right? Because you're saying, well, we've got here, Eric says we'll have Dak all season. Hopefully, right? Like hopefully that's the case. But what if he has to miss a game? What if he has to miss the game against the Vikings and you lose that game because you don't have an established backup quarterback, and then you lose out on the final wildcard spot to Minnesota by a game because you didn't have that person? That's one random hypothetical, but that's how I feel. I mean, we forget this is a quarterback who this regime cut last year. They cut Cooper Rush in favor of keeping what was then a rookie 7th-round pick in Ben DiNucci behind Andy Dalton. I've said all over the place, Tom, I love the archetype that Andy Dalton was last year as a backup quarterback to the Cowboys. I love not that he was super young last year, but I love the young guy who has started games recently in the NFL, has had some moderate success as a starter, still learning, still kind of growing. I love Buffalo signing Mitchell Trubisky. That's the example I've used a lot. So I wish, and I know a lot of people agree, that the Cowboys had gone out and traded for Gardner Minshew. I wish that they had been the team to do that instead of the Philadelphia Eagles. And so this Cooper Rush experiment, I think it's still an experiment, is not really this is a quarterback, Tom, who literally sent Kellen Moore out of his playing career into the coaching booth. I mean, if not for Cooper Rush, Kellen Moore might still be a backup quarterback in the NFL. So I know I've gone on a little bit about this. And actually, Tom, this is a great point here from DJ Dog 31. It made no sense to have DiNucci play more this preseason than Gilbert or Rush. They have mishandled the backup quarterback situation. Cooper, I mean, Garrett was not only your QB2 all camp long, he basically worked as your QB1 because Dak was not throwing because of the lat strain. So Cooper has gotten such a microscopic amount of time to be the guy to trust here. And I don't know. That's my take on this.
Yeah, it's wild. It's kind of wild because you mentioned about Cooper Rush sending Kellen Moore into coaching. Yet I think that the connection he has with Kellen Moore weighed heavily on him being retained over Gilbert. And I will be disappointed if we don't see a fairly steady stream of quarterbacks coming in for workouts. Not just because I think the Cowboys need to be open to a move, but I think they might as well let Cooper Rush know that, he's around just as long as they think they can't do better. And maybe, I think they can do better. And like I was saying, we could see Rush on the roster for 1 or 2 weeks into the regular season before they make a move in that direction.
So, Tom, a question that's been floated out. I think the biggest cut across the NFL today has been the New England Patriots cutting quarterback Cam Newton. And so that has begged the question from a lot of people, should the Cowboys pursue Cam Newton? Doesn't quite fit the archetype I described, not a young player anymore, but he's a former league MVP, obviously. I mean, we've seen incredibly high highs from Cam. Obviously, New England cut him for a reason, and so you've got to pay attention to that. But is that worth pursuing in your mind? And if you're watching along, yes or no, should the Cowboys pursue Cam Newton? Tom?
Yeah. As soon as Cam gets the first vaccination shot, I'll talk with him. That's basically where it starts because, as people have explained, under the current NFL rules, if an unvaccinated player shows up and tests positive, he's out for an extended period of time, but he can also force the rest of the quarterback room to have a problem. Like if he infected someone else because he's unvaccinated, that's a level of risk factor that just I don't think the Cowboys are going to accept. And I think if Newton were to say, okay, I give and get vaccinated, I think that a lot of teams need to then look at him, because there are some pluses there as long as he's willing to come in and play the backup role. And he's probably going to do it for minimum salary, because basically everything that New England paid him was guaranteed money. So he's got paid. He's already been paid for this year. But yeah, to me, it's a dead issue until we find out a change in his vaccination status.
Jay Manzari 1 also suggests Will Greer. Again, does have the connection with Doug Nussmeier. I get that. I mean, but we haven't seen much from Will Greer in the NFL either. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that's a lateral move from Cooper Rush to Will Greer, but like, there's no question. And like, I've seen this take floating around. Everything you said about Cam is completely fair within the current construct of the NFL from a competitive standpoint. We've heard Michael Irvin make this case. We've heard a lot of people make this case. But from a football standpoint, there's no question that Cam is a better quarterback than Cooper Rush, because I've seen that take floating around on Twitter today. People like, well, he's barely better than Cooper Rush. Let's relax here. Like, Cam is not the player he once was, but this is Cooper Rush. You know, like let's be clear here. And you know, that's a reality. That's a variable in the NFL. That's a variable that teams have to consider. I mean, especially, you know, you have to consider that with any player you sign, let alone, another variable that you're going to introduce into your quarterback room, which is, definitely, DJ Dog 31 says, who wants a quarterback who is not vaccinated? I don't. Cam is direct opposite of Dak in personality and leadership. I do think that the Cam has taken some unfair hits over the course of his career as far as leadership is concerned, but I get it if you're not in on Cam Newton right now. Certainly. But Tom, we are getting questions here about why CeeDee Lamb is not on the roster. Let's see here from Kevin. Just again, to reiterate for anybody who's getting here late, there are 4 players on the Cowboys COVID list at the moment. CeeDee Lamb is one of them. They do not count against the 53-man roster. It is 2:23 p.m. Central Time in 37 minutes. Shout out to my mental math there. Shout out to Texas A&M University. Though, at 3:00, the roster will be final with the 53 players on the 53-man roster. CeeDee Lamb, Carlos Watkins, DeMonte KZ, and Connor Williams, Tom, will technically not be on the 53-man roster. They are still part of the Cowboys organization, but they are not counting against the roster right now. So looking at this, because I did not carry, Tom, and we got a question about this a little while ago. I mentioned the 53-man roster projections that we had over at the site yesterday. I did not carry a punter on my roster, and when I didn't, I got a lot of questions from you guys. I know you specifically were like, "Hey, so you just, they're never going to punt. Like, what are you angling at here?" And I really thought, because the chatter had been hot about Johnny Hekker, the Los Angeles Rams punter, that LA could move on from him. He's obviously got a long history with John Fossil. I wrote about this on Monday at blogontheboys.com, almost 1,000 words, which Tom will tell you takes some time. So I had some stuff to back this up, but Johnny Hekker, Tom, restructured his deal with the Los Angeles Rams, so he's not going anywhere. Are you pleased about this? For what it's worth, when it comes to PFF's grades for punters, which they do have, Johnny Hekker was tied for 21st last year. Brian Anger was 9th. So I think the Cowboys, I do think if Johnny Hekker had become available, they would have pursued that because of John Fossil. So yeah, I'm kind of happy this worked out.
Yeah, because Hekker is the master of the trick play out of the punt formation. He, and I think Fossil would have loved to have had him for that. But it's a moot point. And that's just how it shook out. I also would have been very curious to see if the Cowboys were willing to try to put some money in to signing him or not, because they don't have a lot of cap space to work with, and they can always restructure somebody else. But I get the feeling they're trying to hold off on that for now until they absolutely have to. And so I never did get as excited about Hekker myself. I was just, that was going to be,
you're just a hater.
Yeah. When we see something happening then I will get worried about it. And no, I don't hate you.
Well, do you think though, if he had become, because I already said so, but do you think that if he had become available, that the Cowboys would have done it, that they would have signed Johnny Hekker?
They might have taken a run at it. I just don't think they would have taken a run that would have kept him from going somewhere else. I think somebody would have come in and outbid him, maybe.
I don't know if I believe that.
Well, yeah. Admittedly, Fossil may have been the difference in that.
I like this comment. Fossil's now in charge of anger management. What a literal way to put that. So that's well done. Let's see here, Tom. We are currently, I don't know the exact count off the top of my head. I can't count these totally, but Clinton Dix just released by the San Francisco 49ers. So had a cup of coffee with the Cowboys.
My shocked face.
Tom is in a bit of a mood here today. We appreciate the Gonzalez 53 says, I don't think the Cowboys would have signed him. Maybe I'm reading too much into the Johnny Hekker thing. From 2012 through 2019, Tom, John Fossil, Johnny Hekker, Greg Zuerlein, and Jake McQuaid all worked together with the St. Louis and Los Angeles Rams. I just have to think, that it would have happened. Kevin asks, what secondary guy do you think might get cut? So as we look at the secondary, Tom, the players who were still part of it, we have Trayvon Diggs not getting cut, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Kelvin Joseph, who's a candidate to start the season on injured reserve, Nashawn Wright, Maurice Kennedy, CJ Goodwin. Those are the corners. Donovan Wilson, Jaron Kearse, Malik Hooker, Israel Mukuamu. Tom, I have a bold take here. I don't think any of these guys are getting cut.
No,
I think they're set on the secondary now.
Yeah, you move Joseph to injured reserve, and there is a chance that would give them, with Joseph on IR, that gives them 10 defensive backs. We could see them actually sign somebody back, either
like Darian Thompson,
or even go outside the organization to add one more defensive back. So yeah, I think we've seen all of the cuts for the secondary at this point. And now, maybe that's it. Maybe they're going position group by position group. They did quarterback, they did running back, they've done the secondary, and they may be done with the offensive line, because you bring Connor Williams back, that's 11, and then Ball goes off, so you're back to 10. I think we may have the offensive line set up. They've probably got to make a lot of decisions on wide receiver. And I say they've got to make a decision. They got to announce their decision, because I think they know what they're doing on most of these. They're going to have to waive at least Eubanks.
Tom, on the subject of wide receiver, Todd Archer again earlier today speculated that Malik Turner could be a candidate to be placed on injured reserve at the beginning of the season, or the beginning of the roster setting, which is today in 31 minutes. And so for that to happen, as we've said several times, by the way, that water bottle looks really cool. He would have to be carried on the 53-man roster. I think that to Jay Manzari, one brings this point up. Could they carry 7 receivers? Maybe I'm connecting dots that are too far away. I wonder if that confirms that Simi Fehoko is not making the team, because they're not going to actually carry 7 wide receivers, but they would have to carry 7 wide receivers today for Simi to make it and for Malik to make it, to be able to put him on injured reserve. Now, maybe they feel comfortable with some other things, like maybe they're willing to risk Nick Ralston or something like that. I just don't know that they need both Malik Turner and Simi Fehoko. I love Simi. It was an awesome, draft pick. We were really hyped about it, but I don't think it's going to work out necessarily. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm leaning that he'll probably wind up on the practice squad. He's also, as you said, he's a candidate for a cut. And then if they need a 6 wide receiver, bring him back when Malik Turner goes on IR. I'm just not real sanguine about him making the roster right now. So I have kind of had that feeling for a little while, and understand that's just my feeling. That doesn't mean I know anything.
You hooked on this feeling?
Huh?
You hooked on this feeling?
No, I'm not hooked on a feeling. Yes.
Yo.
Blue suede, yes.
we've gotten this question a few times, so we put a graphic up. Everybody, CeeDee Lamb is on the team. He's not on the roster at the moment. The 4 players on the Dallas Cowboys COVID list: Demonte KZ, CeeDee Lamb, Carlos Watkins, Connor Williams. They do not count against the 53-man roster that is being finalized today. The Washington football team, by the way, Tom, has their 53-man roster set in. That to me kind of feels like, that one kid in class that always wanted to turn their test in but got an F. That's Washington right now.
The Falcons, I think, have theirs too.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. We've got some questions here. Jesse asks, was Isaac Alarcon cut? Yes, he was, but he will be on the practice squad, so no worry, he's not going anywhere. DJ Dog 31 would not be surprised to see no vet pickups from other teams because of the vet guaranteed contracts. Picks will be rookie players only until week 1. I agree with that. Danny loves our singing, by the way. Let's see. Donnie asks whether Nick Ralston makes the 53. If we're defining that, Tom, as today, or as in 28 minutes, I don't think so. I didn't have him on my 53-man roster. I think he might get brought back, like we've kind of speculated, but I don't think Nick Ralston, and again, for anybody who's here, just because someone doesn't make the 53-man roster when it is announced in half an hour does not mean they are not going to be on the team next Thursday night in Tampa Bay. By the way, Tom, felt so good to say next Thursday night.
Yes, it does. I'm not sure about Ralston because I've heard that Mike McCarthy loves him some fullback on his roster. We're going to find out a little bit of the truth of that. So I don't think Ralston is definitely not going to make it. I would lean that they won't, and maybe stash him on the practice squad to have if they decide to use it later. Because they still have that ability to pull people up for from the practice squad on game day, since they've extended all those rules that they put in place last year, which I hope they'll just make permanent. I think it makes it much easier to manage a roster. But that's one I'm waiting. That's one I'm kind of wanting to see. And I had forgotten about KZ, so I'm wondering, will they have to move one of the safeties that they've currently got on the roster when KZ comes back? Or are they going to find a way to keep Kwame and Hooker all together? Because I believe that Curse is on the roster. I believe that Wilson is on the roster.
Yeah, and what Tom's talking about is they're going to have to create a spot for KZ to return. And yes. So is that spot going to come from the secondary? CJ Goodwin is your special teams ace. He's not a corner, but he's a corner. So your true corners are Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Kelvin Joseph, who might be headed to IR, Nashawn Wright, Maurice Kennedy. So that gives you 5 to start, and you've got 4 safeties, 5 with KZ. I'm fine with that. I like Nick Ralston, but if the difference to me is you get a fullback or you get 10 DBs, I'd rather have 10 DBs.
Yeah, I was did an article on McQuamu because apparently during the preseason he lined up all over the place. Yeah. He was a free safety, a box safety, and he took a whole bunch of snaps as a slot cornerback, as well as lining up on the line as a threat to rush the passer. So that kind of flexibility means that he's maybe safety / cornerback / general defensive back / just all-purpose, come at him from everywhere defender.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how this shakes out because, as you said, we're getting down. It's 25 minutes to go, and there's a lot of things, a lot of balls still up in the air with this current thing. I was looking, the defensive line is going to be an interesting one because, with Gallimore going off, Watkins coming back in to take his place, that gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Good job, Tom.
12. That's too much. And Chauncey Golston is probably going to be PUP.
So Chauncey and Tristan Hill are both currently on the PUP list and likely to begin the season there. They do not count against the roster either. So if you don't see those 2 players, that's why. So Tom, you're kind of pontificating, which I'll ask this question, and I'm asking it to the whole class. So not just Tom, although Tom gets our shining star for today. What cut would make you upset as we get closer? We're getting closer and closer now, 24 minutes away. The time is flying by. what cut would upset you? And so, like, to be clear here, you can't pick, TJ Vasher. Like, we're talking about like a player that would be somewhat surprising, but that you could see being cut that would upset you. Like for me, the answer is like Maurice Kennedy, who kind of not fell off, but like fizzled out. Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe that's where they're leaning.
Quit asking me questions and then taking my answer before I can say it. Because that was my guy. I think Kennedy,
too bad.
Kennedy clearly proved that he should be on this roster. And I just would probably, I promise I won't throw too much on camera, but there may be a pin flying across the screen here. So yeah, I would hate to see him. If it was after him, who would really, I mean, I might go with Justin Hamilton because I think Hamilton is not going to finish the year on the roster because they've got to do something about Gallimore and Hill. But for starting the season, I think he earned a spot, and I think they should roll with him into Tampa Bay.
I don't see, like, Justin Hamilton wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not, maybe I'm too low on him, but holy crap, Tom. Clayton says, now let's get rid of Dorrance Armstrong. Whoa, Clayton, why are we trying to do this? Like, Dorrance Armstrong's the third best defensive end on the team right now. You know, let's be cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, so
that would totally wig me out because in looking at this, I'm trying to envision who might they cut, and I don't even consider him as a possibility. Now, I ain't named Jones, so I don't have any vote in this whole thing, but I just don't see him.
John LeGray says, I'd say Gifford, talking about linebacker Luke Gifford. He's shown up in just about every preseason game on both special teams and defense. He did have a great game against Jacksonville. I do think they will keep him and go with 6 linebackers. I think that Luke Gifford made the team, Tom, when Francis Bernard left practice in Oxnard with a hamstring injury. I think Luke Gifford made the team at that point in time because the top 5 linebackers are clearly set. Micah, Leighton, Jalen, who Jerry Jones had a comment about earlier this morning. We'll get to in a minute, I guess. Keanu and Jabril Cox. Now, there's not a lot of special team snaps in there. I know there's been reports about Leighton and Jalen playing on special teams, but you need that dude to do the dirty work, and that's Luke Gifford. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just I can't say for certain they're going to carry a 6 linebacker. So Gifford would not terribly upset me because I've kind of not been expecting them to have that for some time. I used to think they had to carry a 6 linebacker, but if they've got the right people in filling secondary slots and stuff like that, then okay, yeah, I could say that maybe they can just ride with 5, and I wouldn't be terribly surprised about that. And forgive me, did I hear something about Jabril Cox having some kind of a problem or something recently, or am I just imagining that?
No,
I mean a physical or illness kind of thing.
No, you're definitely making that up. Don't panic anybody, Tom. There's 500 people with us online here. Don't freak them out. You know what I mean? Like that's let's be cool.
All right.
So
I'm sorry. I apologize. That just rang in my head.
I also think, and it's more of a surprise. Maybe this isn't a surprise case, 7th round pick. I did not have Matt Farniok making my 53-man roster. I know he's effectively the backup center on the team. For what it's worth, the Miami Dolphins did release Matt Skura yesterday. So that's somebody who we tossed out as maybe a potential backup center for the Cowboys, since Connor Williams is clearly not it. But I do think that Matt Farniok might be cut when the initial roster's set. You know what I mean? Like, just to kind of, create a spot. I don't know that anybody's really concerned about Matt Farniok because they have to carry Josh Ball to put him on injured reserve. And the reality is Josh Ball has a lot of circumstances surrounding him. But he's, as far as what has happened here, what has transpired, he's a 4th round pick. They're not about to toss that 4th round pick aside that they've invested.
Yeah, they definitely, if it was, an either or between the two of them, Farniok is the guy they would risk with waiving. But
would you be shocked if they cut Ty and Secchi?
Absolutely.
I mean shocked relative to how he's played, not shocked relative to the construct of the roster. Because relative to the construct of the roster, they absolutely need him. But I mean, he hasn't impressed. Yeah, like, do you feel comfortable with him as the swing tackle? You know what I mean? Like, no, but he's the swing tackle. So, and Adamantium, great name, says, how long do they have to get down to the 53? They have 29 minutes at current moment. We are keeping track of all this, by the way. That's why we're here.
No, excuse
me. Go ahead, Tom.
Aggie math, it's 19 minutes.
Oh, that's right. That's my bad. Yeah. Hey. Whoops. I'm trying to buy them more time. It's a hard decision to make.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know who right now you could tell me would be the swing tackle that would make me feel highly confident. You know, but they don't have a great one on the roster. There are people that you could maybe bring in from outside that would give you an upgrade over Terrence Steele or Brandon Knight or maybe even Nseki. But I mean, if they brought in someone else, I don't think Nseki is the guy they would move to make room unless they were just really pinching pennies. So to me, he's one of the, he's kind of like the QB2. I don't know who's going to make me feel happy at that point.
Yeah, there are some rough things to be content with. You know what I mean? Oh man, this is a really depressing comment from the lunatic. Nseki maybe this year's haha. Yeah, that's no dice. Okay, so we're expecting, Tom, a number of 5 receivers to be cut here. Maybe not 5, maybe at least 4. You know, because we've got the top 5. Oh, actually, maybe 5 because CeeDee Lamb again not on the roster. For anyone who has joined us late, again, the Dallas Cowboys have 4 players on their COVID list. These players do not currently count against the 53-man roster. They're not currently on the 53-man roster. They're on the team, though, so that's why you don't see CeeDee Lamb. But Amari, Gallup, Cedric, Noah are safe as far as the current list is concerned. We're still monitoring. That's why I'm looking over here for everybody. I like looking into Tom's eyes, but, you know, we're paying attention to what's happening.
Yeah, that's why. I was going to say that's why I'm staring at my phone occasionally looking for something to break.
Let's see here. Simi Fehoko, I think, is in danger. Malik Turner might be carried just to be placed on injured reserve. But Reggie Davis, Stephen Guidry, Aaron Parker, TJ Vasher, all probably about to get cut. Let's see here on Twitter. Mark Dempsey says, how about keeping Simi? I just don't see it. I don't think he's done enough. I think they feel comfortable risking him to try to stash on the practice squad. And so I think that's what they ultimately wind up doing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, Tom. Who else? Who else is in danger here? Do you think Jeremy Sprinkle makes this team?
Yeah, as a placeholder for McKeon.
Just temper, but so they're both going to make the team right now.
Yeah, they'll make. Sprinkle may be one of those guys that you risk, knowing that you can get him back to sign to have him ready until McKeon is off of IR. You need a third tight end for at least the 3 weeks that it would take McKeon to be returned to the roster. And I don't think there's much danger of somebody swooping in and snatching Sprinkle. So he might be a guy that could be initially waived with the intent of plugging him back in.
Let's see here. 105 through the fans, Jeff Kavanaugh just tweeted, I believe your fullback is going to make the Cowboys. So Nick Ralston could be safe as we are now 16 minutes away. Victor asks in a very upset manner, why did y'all scratch off Isaac Alarcon? Look, we didn't cut him. But the Cowboys have cut him, unfortunately. So Roboto Chan says, how is Simi supposed to do something with the quarterbacks? How they ever throw him the ball? That's why I said, I mean, like if you believe in Simi, it's possible the Cowboys, purposely did not highlight him in the preseason so that they could sneak him onto the practice squad. If Simi had balled out and kicked ass in the preseason, obviously this would be a very difficult proposition. Let's see here. Richard Michelini, hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, says best free agency targets right now. I'd say Matt Skura at center, position of need. I don't think there's really a tackle out there right now, Tom, that the Cowboys could benefit from. And if you believe in it, not you, Tom, specifically, but anybody, Cam Newton is at least the most notable name in terms of positions the Cowboys need.
Yeah, and like we said, Newton has that little problem with, being a possible COVID risk. So, yeah, I don't see he's going
How
to be
about
part of this.
he was just cut, Tom. I don't know if you've seen this while you've been being your fantastic YouTube personality. Luke Skipper notes that Desmond Trufant was just cut. Are you satisfied in the secondary? You know what I mean? Like, do you really need another body over there?
Who is he better than? But
that's not a fair question to ask, because it's not just who is he better than. It's just who are you willing to lose? Because you know what I mean? There are players who you're not willing to lose or part from because you're invested in, both from a time and financial perspective.
That would come down to me. That would be to know the answer to that. You have to know how happy are they with Anthony Brown, because this would be one where I would see bringing him in to replace one of the veterans, not one of the new young players that they want to keep and nurture and play on the rookie deals. But that's where I would look at it. I'm not up to speed on him at all on any of the free agents really. So I would.
The Jaguars just released Devin Smith, who had a nice moment on Sunday. Had a nice time, nice cup of coffee for the Cowboys himself. Devin Smith, certainly rooting him on. He was a guest actually this past summer on Girls Talking Boys, one of the shows we have on the Blog of the Boys podcast network. So, Travis Bush says Anthony Brown is so average it drives me crazy. Yeah, I'm not saying that Anthony Brown is great here. However, he's the most senior corner on their team, and so this is the Cowboys here. I mean, they don't like to risk a lot of things. DJ Dog 31 Tom says, would a surprise cut be CJ Goodwin? I would be stunned if the Cowboys cut CJ Goodwin. He is there with the devotion to special teams we've seen. I know Bob Sturm has written about this in The Athletic. They really finally have players whom they've dedicated towards being stars on special teams, not just your actual specialist, but like CJ Goodwin. So I don't think that he's in danger at all.
Yeah, I don't. Let's just say that if he is in danger, we've been sadly misinformed from a lot of different levels. And, the history of the Cowboys and keeping people for special teams, that was what Jeff Heath was for a long time, because he was never really the guy you wanted playing safety, except when the defense would call the Heath interception play. And so, I don't really see Goodwin going anywhere this year because they don't have someone that's replaced him.
Let's see here. Let's see what other question we have here. JC Clutch says TJ Vasher is from my city. What's the deal with him? That's awesome, but he's not going to make this team.
He's just too deep on the depth chart. That's all there is.
Do you think we could see a trade, Tom? I mean, do you think we could see any kind of trade? Any kind of trade at all? I think the only thing I'd be interested in trading for would be a veteran quarterback, and the one to get was Gardner Minshew. So, go ahead.
I might see them entertaining something if they could find, like we were talking, a good swing tackle. Or basically you need to be open for whatever. If you've got someone they want to trade you someone who would definitely upgrade a spot on your roster, and they're asking something that you feel is a good price where you come out ahead, you should be open to it. I don't know how open the Cowboys are. They have not been trading demons of late, but it's a case by case. What are you talking about? Tell me who you've got, what you want to do, and then I can at least say, I like it, or no, I don't, or just I don't know.
So question here from Demary One and Only. What are the asterisks about the players with? So just to catch everybody up here, we're looking at players who are currently on the Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster. The players you're now looking at are currently not. The 4 players who are on the COVID list: DeMonte Casey, CeeDee Lamb, Carlos Watkins, and Connor Williams. They do not count against the 53-man roster. The Cowboys have to be at in 10 minutes. But the players with the asterisks that you're looking at are players whom it is speculated could begin the season on injured reserve. They have to be carried on the initial 53-man roster in order to be eligible to return from IR, the old IR boomerang, during the season. So that is, the notation there. The players struck out in red, obviously, are players who the Cowboys have cut already.
Also, we have to mention, if there's one or more of these players that are asterisked, that the Cowboys think will be ready by like week 2 or week 3, they might just carry them as
they might
game
just
day
hold them.
inactives, huh?
No, that's what they might just carry them. Like say Kelvin Joseph's groin injury is not something that they believe will hold him out that long. They might just carry him on the roster, and you're right, have him inactive next Thursday night against Tampa.
Yes. So our asterisks are a bit of speculation based on what we've heard, but the Cowboys haven't officially taken a position on any of those yet.
So tweet just now. All right, everybody, buckle up. From Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News. Cowboys' initial 53-man roster is expected to include 3 tight ends, Tom. Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz, and IR candidate Sean McQuaid. Number of ways team can add a third healthy tight end for week 1. One is Jeremy Sprinkle. If signed to practice squad, he can be elevated up to 2 times. So it does seem like Jeremy Sprinkle is not going to make the initial 53-man roster for the Cowboys. That not official yet, but Michael Gelkin, one of the more connected insiders in the local media, I think it's safe to trust him. And again, the Cowboys have to carry Sean McQuaid to place him on injured reserve. So it'll be a temporary thing, kind of like the Indiana Jones swap, Tom. Take Sean McQuaid out, put Jeremy Sprinkle in.
And like you said, they could even roll without having 3
but that also, sorry, Tom, that means the end for Nick Eubanks, just in case that wasn't obvious.
We were questioning that?
No, I mean, I'm just being literal here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying they could even roll the first week or 2 just carrying Schultz and Jarwin if they've, think they might have a way to work around it. If they're not going to rely a lot on 2 tight end sets, just while biding time for McKeon to come back and keep Sprinkle on the practice squad. And the logic in that is to say week 1 you roll with 2 tight ends. Okay, so one of them gets nicked up. Then you call up Sprinkle next week. So it's all just about how you're managing the roster and where you think you need the spots. So
that's Chris Gutierrez asks, what's up with boss man Joseph? What injury? He suffered a groin injury on Sunday against Jacksonville. Okay, that's our first little bit of update. If looks like that's going to happen, so that would leave us, Tom, assuming this does happen. Although it's not official, so we don't want to put it on the chart yet. But that would give us 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, the 1 fullback, and Nick Ralston. That would give us 3 tight ends for now, and what is currently 10 wide receivers that are left. Again, CeeDee Lamb not technically on the roster right now, but I think we're probably going to see 5 wide receivers make it right now, Tom. I think they're in 6 minutes. We're going to see that the Cowboys have moved on from Simi Fehoko, Reggie Davis, Stephen Guidry, Aaron Parker, and TJ Vasher. Do you agree?
Yeah, that sounds good. So you're looking, I had to think through all this. You're saying that the 5 that they will carry will be the 4 known ones plus Malik Turner to go on IR.
Yeah. Right. And so again, now in almost 5 minutes, we would have Amari, Michael, Cedric, Noah, with CD expected to come off of the COVID list hopefully soon. That's 5. And then Malik Turner would be your actual 6th, again, carried temporarily just while the Cowboys place him on injured reserve. Maybe then they want to call up Simi. You know what I mean? I don't know why you would go through that. I mean, if you're just going to do that, just carry Simi now. But it is what it is ultimately. But I'm still monitoring Twitter, nothing yet. But I mean, I don't know. Simi's the one question I have, because it does seem like Malik's going to be on the 53 in 5 minutes. I don't know if I believe Simi Fehoko is going to be, though. Do you? Call it now, Tom. Put it on the record. Simi Fehoko, is he going to make the Cowboys 53 in 5 minutes?
No.
Wow. How do you sleep at night, Tom?
I have a clean conscience.
Edge of Greatness says, whoo, this is a nail biter. DeLunatic says Simi is cut, my bet, so agrees with us. Young Aristotle says, I'd rather have Simi than Noah. I definitely would. What's up to Younger? I would rather have him for the future, but in terms of 2021, I would 100% rather have Noah Brown. I know I'm cheating there. Colin says Simi is getting cut. Justin agrees or disagrees with all of us. Says Simi is good. LOL. He makes it LMAO. We got LOL'd and LMAO'd. So I mean, it is what it is.
That's conviction.
It really is. Let's see here. By the way, Tom, I'm not sure if you care, but Manchester United announced Cristiano Ronaldo today, so life is good. I mean, in one way at least. But this is stressful. I don't really don't feel like there's a player I would be devastated if they cut. Yeah. Is there one for you? Because now's your last chance to say that authentically.
Devastated? No, like I said, Kennedy would upset me. It would be a surprise. I mean, if it's just one of the people we absolutely know are going to make the roster and they wind up, waiving or cutting them, then yeah, it could happen. But what I'm seeing right now is kind of falling into line with the expectations I had coming in, because the simple truth is that prior to the cut, you could probably rattle off 46, 47 names. They're going to make the roster, and it's just a handful. And that's what we're talking about, is how are they going to manage that handful of players that we can't be sure about?
What about Tom Kamara?
Oh,
I know we talked about this, and by the way, for everyone here, we will be here on the channel live after Hard Knocks tonight. You can join myself, Roy White, Meg Murray, and Bobby Belt to chat episode 4. And I know at the end of last week's stream, Tom, we all guessed whether or not Azur was going to make it, and we all said no. But Bob Sturm, we've talked about this several times. You and I had a piece in The Athletic about special teams prowess and whatnot, whatever, and kind of, I wouldn't say insinuated, but kind of at least speculated that Azur could be safe based off of his contribution on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he didn't make it, but I can see a case for him being on the team, which is, where is he anyway? Has he already been released? I don't see him.
No.
Where is he?
No.
Why is he not here?
Azur, he's at the bottom of the third column.
Oh, there he is. Okay. Oh, you got him listed as a linebacker. He's he's one of those guys.
We're going off of to be clear here, blame the Cowboys, because we're going off of DallasCowboys.com's positional designation. So, the mothership makes their own decisions.
Could be an interesting way to carry him as a linebacker in that thing. But yeah, I think he's a defensive end or maybe they're looking him at as a 3-4 linebacker, which is, like you said, it's very confusing. So I was looking for him all over to go like, well, why isn't he there?
Still paying attention. We are a minute and 15 seconds away, Tom. Does it have the New Year's feel? Like, I kind of feel like I'm Ryan Seacrest, you're Mario Lopez. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting everybody set. You know what I mean? The ball's dropping. Everyone's at it. Is it Rockefeller Plaza Center?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that the Cowboys aren't real prompt at that ball drop, because I can remember when we've had to sit around for 10, 15 minutes until they finally put it.
Tom, no, it's not. But another tweet from Michael Gelkin: Cowboys' initial 53-man roster is to be official shortly, but the expectation is linebacker Luke Gifford is on it. He can be a core contributor on special teams, did everything the team asked of him this preseason. Also depth at a position with little long-term stability. That said, 53 is subject to change. So it does seem like Luke Gifford is safe. By the way, Nicholas, let me know it's Rockefeller Center. Never been to New York City myself, so how was I supposed to know? But Luke Gifford, safe, Tom. Does that help you sleep even better at night?
No. It wasn't going to disturb my sleep. I like Gifford having a chance, but you got to remember he's been with the team for a while, and he hasn't really proven that he's a high value player.
That might spell the end of Azur, though. I mean, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, just depending on what you said, you know what I mean? Like, just depending on how they view this whole thing positionally, that might be the biggest, derivation to take out of this.
Yeah, but I would say that Kamara is probably going to wind up on the practice squad.
Right.
I think that, remember that with a 16-person practice squad, you've got a very good tool to use in managing downstream, because we all know what's going to happen downstream. Players are going to wind up having to miss games, possibly the entire season. And it's good to have people that you think just barely didn't make the cut waiting there, so you can bring them up when you need them.
That's a good point, Tom. It is a battle of attrition, as many people like to say, and it is now 3:00 Central Time.
Yes,
we don't mess with that Eastern time, mess. It's 3:00 Central Time. Nothing official yet. Still waiting. So nobody move. I feel like like we're stuck. But Kamara might make the practice squad. To go back to your point, man, good for Luke Gifford. Honestly, I'm happy for him. I do think a big boost in his stock was Francis Bernard getting hurt. We've had some comments, Tom, people saying that they would be devastated if Israel Mukuamu was cut. I don't see any way that Israel doesn't make this team, honestly, personally. I mean,
you better.
Whoa. This isn't a big deal, but the punter that the Los Angeles Rams could have gone with instead of Johnny Hekker, which we've already put that to bed. His last name is very difficult to pronounce. Corey Bojorquez has been traded to the Green Bay Packers. So not Mike McCarthy's team, but his former team. So Johnny Hekker, though, is staying with the Rams now very firmly, officially, absolutely, definitely. Tom, where's the 53-man roster? Why isn't it out yet?
Did I not just tell you the Jones family is not real prompt on the ball drop? They've probably submitted all the information to NFL headquarters just to stay out of trouble. But, they like to keep us twisting in the wind and build the anticipation because that's how they are.
I feel like the older days of New Year's, like when I don't know, like New Year's Eve, like 2003, and you would try to call, like whoever, be like, hey, Happy New Year, and like all because we weren't that advanced as a society, like all the phone lines would be tied up. You know what I'm talking about? So you couldn't call anybody. Maybe 2003 wasn't the best example of that, but yeah, I mean that's how it feels. LPD Repao asks if DiNucci will make the practice squad. Probably, and people will be pissed off, but
I will. That will probably would upset me as much as any of the cuts we've talked about.
The Bengals just released defensive tackle Mike Daniels. In case you're interested in somebody getting you back to Neville Gallimore. That doesn't interest you all that much.
We just gotta wait and see.
What are you looking at, Tom? Are you playing Candy Crush?
Everything has come up. Just seeing everything come up.
Nothing yet. Cowboys taking their time, as they love to do. Well, we know Cooper Rush is safe. Cowboys offense as of now, realistic offense, has 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, a fullback, 3 tight ends in all likelihood, and probably 5 receivers. I think even 5 receivers counting CeeDee Lamb, assuming Malik Turner's on injured reserve. But lots of people saying sign Cam Newton. I don't think that that's going to happen. Honestly, I can't see the Cowboys doing that personally. I mean, I think it's going to be tough for Cam right now. I think Cam's going to take some time and wait. I think other situations also make more sense for Cam. I mean, Houston, Denver. I mean, those ultimately make more sense to me. Tom, it's still not out here.
And you want me to do exactly what about that?
I want you to wave your hands and wave them like you don't care. Oh, by the way, a note from our producer, Tom. I hadn't seen this myself. The timeline's moving too fast. The Baltimore Ravens waived Trace McSorley. So this has been a really tough day for the TikTok NFL fans with Trace McSorley and Ben DiNucci both being waived. So rough moment for the younger fans of the beautiful game, Tom.
Beautiful game. Yeah, okay.
I mean, hey, it is what it is. But let's see here. Mojo, the only, I don't know if Mike McCarthy approves of that, says Cam isn't going to start anywhere. Probably not, but I don't know that Cam is ready to believe that yet. Wait a minute.
Unless let's see what happens with injuries happen. As you may be vaguely familiar with as a Cowboys fan, that some team could lose a starting quarterback. And
why would you say that, Tom? Like, why would you poke it? Why would you, bring that up?
Because I'm evil.
Wow. That was. Okay. Here we've got a tweet from Jeff Kavanaugh with the Cowboys cuts. I'm gonna try to bring this up here. So I'm pull this open on this computer. Everybody, hold your breath. Let's see here, Tom. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Okay.
All right, I'm pulling this open. We were honest. This is a show that's gonna, be very. These are Cowboys cuts. Let's see. Chauncey Golston passed his physical and now counts toward the 53, so he's off of the PUP list. Tristan Hill's opening the season on the PUP list. Reverting to reserve / NFI, the non-football injury list is TJ Vasher. But Tom, Noah Brown has been placed, seemingly it seems here, on the reserve COVID-19 list. So Noah Brown not counting against the Cowboys roster anymore. We knew about Garrett Gilbert, Darian Thompson, Deontay Burton being released. Holy crap, Tom! Jake McQuaid was released.
Say what?
Jake McQuaid was released. The Cowboys long snapper.
Yeah, I was reading along with you, and that was just like, say, who's long snapping?
So maybe they're calling LP back. Wow, Eric Smith, we knew about. Jeremy Sprinkle, obvious Justin Hamilton. Okay, we're gonna give us a second, everybody. We're working on getting this up on the screen. Wow, Tom, your thoughts on Jake McQuaid as we're working to get everything ready here.
What's the solution? Are they risking him? Do they think he won't sign? Have they got a handshake agreement with him?
You know what? They might, because he's John Fossil's boy.
Yeah, that's like that's probably a real shocker, because they don't have a long snapper, unless maybe they figured Connor Williams can slap it to. No, let's not go there. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. If you wanted a shocker, there it is.
I think you're right, Tom, that because he's John Fossil's guy. He's John Fossil's guy in every sense. And so, I mean, man, this is tough. We also have players that they have waived, Tom. So this is different from release. This is younger players. Johnny Dixon, Ben DiNucci, Osiris Mitchell, we knew about. Reggie Davis has been waived. Aaron Parker has been waived. Stephen Parker, we knew about. Brendan Knox, we knew about. Jaquan Hardy, we knew about. Tyler Coyle, knew about. Nick Ralston has been waived. So they might feel comfortable with him clearing waivers. Nick Eubanks and Artavius Land, again, we speculated. Austin Feulu has been waived. We knew about that. Isaac Alarcon, Braylon Jones, Brandon Smith, and Rondell Carter. So no fullback on the roster, but he might be coming back, Tom.
Yeah, and I'm curious right now, how does that stack up? It seems like we're still short a few names, but I'd have to kind of get an idea what the roster looks like with these updates, which I'd realize it takes a little bit to do that.
I like DJ Dog's comment here that McQuaid has been put on the block as a pawn. Are you a fan of Big Brother, Tom?
No.
Wow, how dare you? He's a pawn. They're willing to lose him. Let's see here. Okay, Tom. So Kamara made the 53, I think.
That looks like it. That's what I'm saying. I'd like to see. It's kind of hard to say.
AG says he made the 53. I love his story, but how? How?
Well, that's why I said I would like to see the list and notice who else is not on this list. Guamu.
Right, so he's safe.
And who else is that? That's why I said I'd like to see. I need the other list back up real quick because my mind.
We're working on it, Tom. Look, this is live. I don't know if we could say live television, but this is live.
Live streaming, folks.
Right. Yep. So, but it seems so. Okay. So Michael Gelko of the Dallas Morning News noted that the Cowboys have waived fullback Nick Ralston, but he's expected to join the practice squad if he clears waivers. So maybe they just want him on the practice squad. Let's see here. Again, big news here. First of all, we hope that Noah Brown is healthy. Like I understand that him being on the COVID list opens up a roster spot, but we hope that Noah Brown is healthy. Although the Noah Brown, Chauncey Golston things kind of canceled each other out, Tom, because we weren't allotting for Chauncey Golston being on the 53-man roster. But so Tristan Hill now the only player on the physically unable to perform list. So Michael Gelkin's context for Chauncey Golston, and for anyone who's unaware, if any player is on the PUP list, they have to be out for the first 6 games of the season. So it seems that the Cowboys did not want to have him miss that much time.
And temporarily, Simi Fehoko was on the roster.
That's right. And I mean, again, he might be the biggest beneficiary of Noah Brown being placed on the COVID list,
Yeah,
because
that was exactly what I was thinking.
we've talked so much about how the Cowboys have all these decisions to make at wide receiver. They now have 2 of their conceivably 5 wide receivers on the COVID list, so they're not counting against the roster. They're only temporarily carrying Malik Turner, obviously, we think, to put on injured reserve. So, I mean, it is what it is. Garrett Wilson says, so Simi made it. It does seem like he made it for now. We're going to have this up very, very, very soon. We're just putting the final touches on it, but he's made it for now.
Simi is one of those guys who easily could just be around for a few days, and then that would say to me that they would definitely try to go with the practice squad for him, which, given his being a draftee, that's almost a given with the Cowboys. They usually are going to at least bring their draftees back to the practice squad.
Shout out to Tom the Goat Ryle. Michael Gelkin now tweeting that the Cowboys' release of Jake McQuaid is believed to be purely a procedural move, just like when CJ Goodwin and Joe Thomas didn't make the 53-man roster last year. The maneuver prevents a young player from hitting waivers today. Again, for anyone who's unaware, if a player is too young, they are subject to waivers and can be claimed by another team. But Jake McQuaid is a senior status veteran, so that means by being cut, it's truly up to him. If he were offered by another team, he could technically sign with them.
And the Cowboys can make the agreement with him beforehand that okay, as soon as we get waivers, find out who clears waivers and everything, and do our other maneuvering, we'll sign you right back and at the same contract, which they cannot do with a young player.
As Colin notes, something that they had done with Kellen Moore in the past as well. It's generally a player that they have a great relationship with. Like right now, obviously John Fossil very tight with Jake McQuaid from their time together in LA and St. Louis, and so they can trust that he won't go anywhere here. We are almost ready to get this graphic up for you. I'm counting the players right now, Tom. Your thoughts on what you've seen, Tom? The thing you're most surprised by?
I didn't see the McQuaid maneuver coming. I think Kamara and Fehoko both kind of surprised me. Although the Noah Brown thing, if he's vaccinated and is one of these people that was exposed but haven't tested positive, that's almost a tool for the team to use to just kind of finagle things, because it's just like he needs to get 2 positive tests and he could be right back at work, maybe miss a day of practice, and that's it. So that's not very alarming unless we hear there's something more significant to it, like a positive test.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. We have one more cut to make on the graphic to get it up. We are just about ready. Everybody, Tom, are you ready, Tom? Are you excited? I know we appreciate everybody. Let's see. Okay, this we believe is the Cowboys 53-man roster in the moment. If we have made a mistake that you see, let us know, please. Welcome everybody. We are Blogging the Boys. You're home for the best Dallas Cowboys coverage on the internet. Check out bloggingtheboys.com. Subscribe here to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. We have live streams every Tuesday. Today we actually have multiple live streams because we'll be live after Hard Knocks tonight. Tom is on Twitter at Tom Ryle BTB. I'm on Twitter at RJ Ochoa. So top to bottom, Tom, I'm just going to go in order for everybody listening, left to right here. We've got two quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush. Did you notice a mistake, Tom? Is that what you're about to say?
I just came up with 54 on my initial run through.
Okay, let's see. You count them while I read, Tom. We'll do some teamwork here. We've got 2 quarterbacks in Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush. I don't know if you want to get a TI 89. Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard at running back. We've got 3 tight ends for now in Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz, and Sean McEwen. The Cowboys are currently carrying 5 receivers, again, with both CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown on the reserve COVID-19 list. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Cedric Wilson, Simi Fehoko, and Malik Turner, who's a candidate to be placed on injured reserve tomorrow on Wednesday. At offensive line, Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, Zach Martin, Lyle Collins, Ty Nsekhe, Connor McGovern, again, Connor Williams on the COVID list, Brandon Knight, Terrence Steele, Matt Farniok, and Josh Ball, also a candidate to head to injured reserve. How many offensive players is that, Tom? Have you been keeping count?
I didn't.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I'll pull them up. I'll do them while you go through the defense.
Okay. At defense, on the defensive line, we have DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, Neville Gallimore, another candidate to head to injured reserve, Osa Adigizua, Dorrance Armstrong, Terrell Basham, Bradley Anai, Brent Urban, Chauncey Golston, who was just now elevated from the physically unable to perform list to the 53-man roster, and Quinton Bohanna. At linebacker, Micah Parsons, Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, I know you're pissed, Keanu Neal, Jabril Cox, Luke Gifford, and Azur Kamara both making it, as has Francis Bernard, another candidate to head to injured reserve. At corner, Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Kelvin Joseph, another IR candidate, Nashawn Wright, Maurice Kennedy, and CJ Goodwin, the special teams star. At safety, Donovan Wilson, Jaron Kearse, Malik Hooker, and Israel Mukuamu, with 2 specialists for the moment, Greg Zuerlein at kicker, Brian Anger at punter, and Jake McQuaid was cut temporarily while the Cowboys can get creative with things. DeLunatic says we have 22 offensive players. Is that correct, Tom? 29 defensive players and 2 special teamers. So that is our grand total of 53. Wow, we did it. Look at that.
Yeah, that's real heavy on defense. Which,
what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I was going to say it's now 5 COVID players coming back. So you've got right. 2 wide receivers coming back with Turner dropping off.
Okay, hang on here. Todd Archer noting that Luke Gifford got cut. I'm trying to confirm that myself, Tom.
Whoa.
If so, then we're missing something.
Yes.
Let's see here. I'm reading through his tweets. He does have Luke Gifford among his cuts, but I'm trying to double check a different list here.
Yeah, that's certainly different information than we were hearing.
I do not see another list with, I'm looking at Jory Epstein's tweet from USA Today. She does not have Luke Gifford among her cuts. I think Luke Gifford made it. We're trying to verify that, Tom. But it does. And when we do the math here, there are 53 players, including Luke Gifford. So that's the only one that is a little bit in flux right now.
Yeah. I mean, Archer's usually very, very reliable, but just like us, he's trying to gather stuff at the last second. He might have misread something, so we'll have to wait
now,
and see.
Colin notes on YouTube, Tom, that according to this list, and this is accurate, every draft pick made the team. All 11 Dallas Cowboys draft picks made the team. The initial team, things could change, but made the initial team. Michael Gelkin now tweeting, and we heard about this again yesterday, Tom. Jeff Kavanaugh tweeted this out, but Michael Gelkin tweeting just now, the Cowboys considered trading versatile, I don't know that I would use that term, offensive lineman Brandon Knight, but the guard/tackle has made the initial 53-man roster. We'll see what happens next. So that's another potential spot to create and open up. So we're talking.
Yeah,
go ahead.
There's
Tom.
Another thing I wanted to add, that if you count McQuaid as not really having been released, that they're going to be bringing him back, all of the Cowboys off-season free agent signings also made the team.
That's right. So hang on. I'm counting now. I've got 39, 41, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 51, 2. I have 53. Let's see here, because Eileen says I just counted. Eileen says I just counted 54, and I'm counting 53 with Luke Gifford.
Yeah, I counted 53 with Gifford when I went through.
Okay, so the one that we're questionable about for anybody here is, and our producer counted 53. Steve Hale asks, no Connor Williams. Again, the Dallas Cowboys, let me get this up here now, Tom. The Dallas Cowboys now have 5 players on their reserve COVID-19 list. These players do not count against the 53-man roster. So the Dallas Cowboys technically have 58 players. Chris is asking, where's KZ? He's on this list. Noah Brown was just announced. DeMonte KZ, CeeDee Lamb, Carlos Watkins, Connor Williams. They are on the Dallas Cowboys, but they are not on the 53-man roster because they do not count as players on the reserve COVID-19 list.
And expect to see all of them, except possibly Brown, on the field for practice on Thursday. So they will be replacing some of those asterisk players that we believe could be going to IR. Since they have taken Golston, he's not on not one of the PUP players. So it's like it may be a 5-for-5 swap now. I'm not sure.
So, okay, we've got 6 players who we believe could be headed to injured reserve, Tom.
Yes.
We
Okay.
we
So
have
still got one
right. So we have Sean McEwen at tight end. We have Josh Ball along the offensive line and Malik Turner. So that's 3 offensive players who we believe could be headed to injured reserve tomorrow. We have 3 defensive players. We have defensive tackle Neville Gallimore. We have linebacker Francis Bernard, and we have corner Kelvin Joseph. So 3 offensive, 3 defensive. If we go back now to our COVID list, we have 5 players on this list, and we have 3 offensive and 2 defensive. And we also have to make room for Jake McQuaid, who's coming back. So that's 6. That's the 6 for 6 if we're just, kind of playing math here to get there. Now, could they create some more spots by trading Brandon Knight or cutting somebody else? Maybe. But right now that does make sense. The simple math of 6 for 6. Do you agree with
that? Unless I'm thinking about it backwards though, McQuaid, you're right. 6 going to IR, McQuaid comes back. Yeah, that makes sense. So McQuaid was the extra hole they needed to get the IR players. So this could be a lot more solid, a 53-man lineup than we're used to seeing with the Cowboys at this stage, given the COVID shuffle that we're looking at and the little trick with McQuaid.
So the Athletics' John Machota does have Luke Gifford on his 53-man roster. So it does seem like there's just some confusion there. You mentioned it, Todd Archer, one of the very best, but I'm not certain what has happened there. It does seem though like like Luke Gifford, has made the Cowboys roster temporarily. But that's our 6 for 6. So okay, let's play this game, Tom. And you can't say Jake McQuaid, and we'll get the question up on screen here. What are you most surprised about?
To be honest, I would.
What do you mean to be honest? Why would you lie?
Well, okay. If I would say Justin Hamilton is the biggest surprise, because I really thought they would want to keep him to give them a little bit of extra depth at defensive tackle. But he's the one guy I really thought was making this team. But that's because I didn't know Golston was going to come back and snatch up a roster spot. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. I felt Golston was a PUP stash, and so that kind of threw that off. But that's the one that I think was really a surprise. I'm kind of surprised. Are you talking just about cuts or about who made it?
Whatever you want. I mean, this is your question. So hang on. To give you some inspiration, Tom, Colin says 7 wide receivers. That seems excessive. So yes, technically the Cowboys do have 7 wide receivers right now, but Malik Turner is probably headed to injured reserve. That I think the surest sign that he's headed to injured reserve is the fact that he's on the team with Simi Fehoko. So the Cowboys might carry 6 in actuality when both CD and Noah Brown get back. So that's not unheard of. I think that's fine. By the way, DJ Dog 31 says excellent content. Great job, RJ and Tom. Appreciate it. If anybody hasn't, please subscribe here to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. This is a great point though, Tom, from Colin. If Sean McEwen goes to IR, then we only have 2 tight ends. I doubt that we do that. So here's my personal speculation, Tom and Colin and anybody else. I have to believe, because you threw this out too, Tom. We're talking about 6 players that could potentially go to IR, maybe come back, whatever, blah, blah. Maybe Sean McEwen isn't headed to IR. Maybe they believe he's going to be back sooner than later. You know what I mean? Like, he got hurt against Arizona, so it was only a couple of weeks ago. Maybe he's not necessarily bound for injured reserve, which is why. But they do have Jeremy Sprinkle as an option to bring back if they do obviously put McEwen on IR. But if they do want to put McEwen on IR, then now we're talking about you have to create if they do want to bring Jeremy Sprinkle back, now you have to create 7 roster spots instead of the 6.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, how would you rank the guys that would be most vulnerable if they need to create another roster spot? Because looking at this, some people that just running down real fast, I think you have to have Fehoko in that group.
You're talking about most vulnerable to being poached, just to be clear.
No, not to being poached. Most vulnerable to being taken off the roster.
Oh,
to
I get
make
what you're
room
saying.
for a
Who are
sprinkle.
the like 52nd and 53rd players, so to speak?
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
the candidates in my mind are Fehoko, Farniok, Kamara, and maybe Mukwamu, which all just so you know, 3 of them are draft picks. So that may mean Kamara may be the 53rd guy if in the mind of the team. So
TJ Ellis says, cool to see Anai made it so far. He might be on that edge too. You know what I mean? He might be kind of maybe not 52, 53, but he might be like 50, 51 is a point. Now, I'm not going to ask for likes, but King says almost 1,000 are watching and only 96 likes. So if you're watching, you want to hit the like button, you know, that would be cool. If you want to give us a like, I'm just saying that would make us happy. But we've got, let's see here. There was a question. Nicholas wants us to know that Chaz Green was cut from the Steelers, by the way, in case anybody's interested. Chaz Green. Now,
let me get my shock face out again.
Moises says, who's going to be the return guy? I think it's Tony Pollard. I think it's still Tony Pollard.
But not on punts. He's going to be the kick return guy. Who's going to return the punts? And maybe that's
what's your answer then?
What
What about Jordan Lewis?
Could be, or maybe that's why Fehoko is still on. I don't know. Did he get a lot of work returning punts? That's one of the things I didn't keep track of.
Yeah. Oh, I like this tweet. I'm not stealing this. We're giving credit here. Shout out to Landon McCool, friend, old school BTBer. Landon McCool had a tweet in response to Dave Hellman from DallasCowboys.com. Check this out, Tom. Dave, this is the sequence of tweets for everybody. Dave Hellman said, I'm curious to see what happens with Chauncey Golston now that he's off PUP. Landon, Tom suggested, could they maybe be setting him up to go on injured reserve since he could return sooner than if he was on the in-season PUP list? Now, if you begin the season on the PUP list, for anybody who's unaware, you have to be out for a minimum of 6 weeks. However, if you are placed on injured reserve, you only have to miss, I believe it's 3 weeks, Tom.
Yes,
so that is a cute little loophole, but you have to carry Golston on the 53-man roster today in order for that to happen. So maybe that's our 7th spot that we're talking about here. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we're talking about how you're going to get Jeremy Sprinkle back. Now that is your potential 7th. I really like that idea. Shout out to Landon McCool on Twitter at McCoolBCB.
Yeah, that's an excellent thought. Really like that.
Corey, by the way, says, just started following BTB in the past couple of weeks. Content's been great, especially for a dislocated fan like me who's in Tennessee. Thanks, guys. What's up, Corey? Hope Tennessee's treating you well. So that makes sense. Let's see, Tom. Let's get this slide up here. So do you think that, are you willing to predict and say that you think that Chauncey Golston's headed to injured reserve?
Yeah, I really like that thought. And it makes sense with a guy who hasn't practiced suddenly to be cleared from PUP on the day of the final cuts to go on the 53-man roster. Yeah, that makes so much sense. As a matter of fact, it almost makes too much sense for me to really believe in it, if you know what I mean.
Ooh, so you're saying it's too good to be true.
Yeah, it's almost like I hope the Cowboys are making that kind of a move. I'm going to kind of hold my breath until they do, which of course I'm already holding my breath for about 17 other things.
Sophie says, are we thinking Simi definitely isn't safe as of right now? I think I would say that. I would say that.
Yeah, that little list of 4 players that I was talking about, Golston, if it weren't for his draft status, you would have thought would be there. But yeah, the 4 players that are kind of at the tail end of the roster, 50 through 53 in our minds, probably all could be at risk depending upon what the Cowboys want to do with massaging and manipulating this, because there may be a little more shuffling than we think there's going to be.
So speaking of that, Tom, let's look at this. I know we've been kind of just throwing it out, in word, but let's put some graphics on it. DJ Dog, by the way, says, I have to say the handling of the cuts down to 53 has been great. McQuaid is a shrewd move. I like that. I like the usage of the word shrewd. I think it's tactical, and I think that they're often not that tactical.
Yeah.
Okay, these players, if you're again, I don't know how you would be listening if you're not watching, but for those of you who are with us, these players are currently, in our moment in time, on the Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster, but they are potentially, probably, arguably headed to injured reserve. Josh Ball, Francis Bernard, Neville Gallimore, Chauncey Golston, Kelvin Joseph, Sean McEwen, Malik Turner. This would happen / will happen tomorrow on Wednesday, September 1st. Whatever happens, we will definitely keep you updated at bloggingtheboys.com and on Twitter at bloggingtheboys. So if that is the case, Tom, that opens up 7 roster spots. We know that the Dallas Cowboys have 5 players on their COVID list. So that gives us 5 back of the 7 that we have created. We need an extra one for Jake McQuaid, and then we need potentially another one for Jeremy Sprinkle. Is that correct? Is that the math you're with?
That seems to fit just like that last piece in the 1,000-piece puzzle, man. Just clicks right in there.
How often do you do puzzles, Tom?
Huh?
How often do you do puzzles?
Haven't in about 50 years. Why?
Okay, that's just.
You
sounded experienced. You said 1,000-piece puzzles. I was about to be impressed if you're doing 1,000-piece puzzles on the rig.
Was that an ageist comment?
No, it wasn't, Tom. My wife and I bought a puzzle. It's a picture of us in front of our house with our dog, and we've been meaning to put it together for like 6 months, and we haven't done it. So I was about to be jealous. Garrett says, what happened to Kelvin Joseph? He has a groin injury, so that's the issue with him. But yeah, so let's get back to the roster, Tom, as it currently stands. There was a comment about us having 5 tight ends. There's not 5 tight ends on this team. There's 3 tight ends. Where are you concerned? Where are you pumped? Let's start with the negative. Now that we know this is, generally speaking, we understand the implications that are going to come here. But now that we know this is what the Cowboys roster looks like, where are the weak points?
Running back's a little bit shallow. That's a high impact position. I hope they've got a fallback, which I'm assuming is going to be either Hardy or Knox or even Ralston. I could see 1, 2, or even 3 of those guys on the practice squad, so they'd have somebody available for a call-up. I figure they're going to sign at least one of them, and that will be their emergency running back to activate for the following week if somebody gets hurt.
By the way, Tom, Roy, who you can hear Roy White with Tom Ryle every Thursday on Riled Up. Roy will also join us later tonight after the episode of Hard Knocks. Says that you seem more like a crossword guy than a puzzle guy. So
no, I'm a Sudoku guy.
Okay, all right, cool. Now Roy says areas of concern: backup quarterback, defensive line, safety, because we don't know. Marlon says ownership. It is what it is. Travis says O-line depth is scary, but all 31 teams feel the same. I agree. I think the Achilles heel of this team, Tom, is Lyle Collins right now. I feel more comfortable with Tyron Smith than I do Lyle Collins in this particular moment in time. And so if Lyle Collins, who's had 2 stingers in as many weeks recently, has to miss time, we're throwing Ty and Secchi out there. I don't feel great about that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you've got, 3, maybe 4 of the depth players on the offensive line that we think of kind of as tackles. So I think they're concerned too. That's a big worry. You've got the numbers, but the quality fall off is kind of scary. And as you said, that stinger problem, I hope it clears up, but man, yeah, somebody just put that up, that stinger.
Yeah. So we have another, Randall says the biggest problem is QB2. I agree this is a problem. If we're power ranking though, it's not in the top 3 for me. I mean, yeah. it goes from like 4th to 1st if it becomes an issue. You know what I mean? But as it stands, it's not like it's not. There are a lot of like if I could wave a magic wand and have the Cowboys address certain needs, QB2 would not be in my top 3.
Yeah, how many teams have a good QB2 situation? We thought they had one of the best in the league last year.
I maintain that they did, but they did if Andy Dalton had to play 1 or 2 games. They didn't, for that particular situation. Tom, a question or a comment from DeLunatic here says 71 goes down. You move Zach Martin to right tackle, bring in McGovern, get your best remaining 5 playing. I like that. I don't know if they're that bold though, especially given how Mike McCarthy poo-pooed that idea last year before they had to do it.
Yeah, I wish they were more open to that, because Martin was just a beast at tackle, just like he is at guard. And yeah, that would kind of give me a warm fuzzy. You know, I want to know, have they given up on the whole Connor Williams at center experiment?
I think they
And
have to. They've been
yeah,
roasted too many
and I thought
times.
Farniok had a pretty decent game. And he played the whole game, I believe, at center against the
You
Jaguars.
know what? Connor Williams not being a great center might have saved Farniok's spot on the roster.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that might have been the
100%.
only thing that kept Matt Farniok on the roster. Let's see here. We have some questions I want to get to, Tom.
Yeah.
TJ Ellis says, do we think Darian Thompson being cut was for good, or just making room for somebody going on injured reserve with intent to bring Thompson back? We've talked already about how there are 7 potential spots the Cowboys can create here, but how that there are 6 players to potentially bring back. I think Darian Thompson's spot, and let's put this back up here. These are the players the Cowboys could potentially place on injured reserve, and we'll get the comment off just so you can see the whole thing here, and we'll get this off too. We're doing this live. But Josh Ball, Francis Bernard, Neville Gallimore, Chauncey Golston, Kelvin Joseph, Sean McEwen, Malik Turner. 7 roster spots created. There are 5 players on the COVID list, so that gives you 2 more spots. One of those has to be Jake McQuaid because you need a long snapper on your team. So that means you have 1 more spot to work with, and the answer could be Jeremy Sprinkle if Sean McEwen's gone in an injured reserve, or it could be Darian Thompson. I think in the moment, Jeremy Sprinkle's probably more needed. Maybe I think they might truly be ready to say goodbye to Darian Thompson. I think I kind of get that vibe myself. I'm curious what you think.
Well, I don't think it's goodbye. It's like, hey, here's you a practice squad offer. What do you think? Because I don't think anybody's going to run in and claim him off of waivers.
Right.
And I think if you're looking at now, some people are very unhappy in Dallas, but most of the players seem to really like the organization, love the facilities. They're happy with the location, the town. And, I just think that Thompson is one of the people that we're going to hear being signed to the practice squad and, hoping to get a shot at getting onto the roster somewhere down the road.
Now, maybe because the lunatic notes, Sprinkle could be cut after McEwen's back, right? So maybe Darian Thompson just has to bide his time on the practice squad while the Cowboys have a tight end problem situation, whatever you want to call it. Whenever that happens, they're able to figure things out, whatever. I did want to have another question thrown at you, Tom. Let's see here. I've lost it now, but let's see here. This was it. Garrett Wilson asks, are we keeping both Sprinkle and McEwen once he gets off of injured reserve? So the assumption here is, because right now Sean McEwen's not on injured reserve, the assumption is that he's going to be. And so if that's the case, it does make sense for the Cowboys to bring back Jeremy Sprinkle. And so could you see a world where they keep both of them?
Maybe, especially if they're going to stick with the 2 running backs. And they have to use tight ends sometimes in more of an H-back role. I would lean towards not just going with 3 tight ends and 2 running backs. It's going to be interesting to see how long this heavy lean towards defense holds up too. And it may well last the whole season, because we saw what happened with the defense last year. They had to bring in a whole lot of new bodies to try to do something with the defense, and it may take them a while to start sorting out who can do the job and who can't in some spots. So they might need those extra pieces to be able to keep swapping in and out. So, but I think they're going to try to roll with 3 tight ends through most of the season. Now, the caveat to this is I could be completely off base with all this stuff, but that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Scott says bring in Bohanna as a fullback on the goal line. There is no fullback on the roster at the moment. So that is nice.
Sign me up for that one.
So and I just saw this. John noted that Todd Archer did tweet that he incorrectly cut Luke Gifford from the Cowboys 53-man roster. So any question about that is ultimately figured out. Now, Tom, you mentioned this. Trainer Joe says, what a great offseason for the Cowboys. Free agents and draft picks, a bit better than last year. Every offseason acquisition made the team. Every single draft pick made the team. So with that, I'll put it to you this way. We just talked about what are you most concerned about. I'll ask you, Tom, and what are you most happy about? Like what what are you pleased about? What has gone well? What are you pumped about? Who are you pumped made the team? Like give us something that makes you feel butterflies inside as a result of the 53-man roster being set.
You just brought it up. All the draft picks, all of the free agent signees from the primary free agent period making the team says maybe they have got the talent evaluation thing down. If they pan out, that would be not only great for this year, but that gives me hope going forward that they can continue this. That the scouting staff is starting to finally figure out what they need, communicate well with the coaches on what they need to in the cabinets when they go shopping for groceries. So yeah, that to me is just exciting that all of these guys managed to make the team and stick in some shape, form, or fashion. That's probably the most exciting thing. For me, problems, yeah, I'm a little worried about that question with Lyle Collins and what they've got for depth there, and will they be creative enough if they need to solve that? A lot of these guys that are going out there going to get a lot of snaps early are untested. Just to give you an example, Osa Odigizua had a great preseason. Is he going to be able to carry that forward? It's that unknown that I'm most concerned about. Will some of these guys that we think are budding superstars, or at least budding solid star players, solid contributors, will that carry into the real NFL games? So we'll just have to find out about that. That's my biggest concern, is that and let me just say this. There's almost always a flop or two or three, and just brace yourself. And that's not just on the Cowboys. That seems to happen to almost every team. So there will be disappointment this season. We just have to hope there's a lot more "oh yeah" than there is "oh no" when we get.
Thanks for the sunshine and rainbows, Tom. Totally, especially when we were talking about what we're most happy about. So hey, but but that's okay. Fair. Go ahead.
What are you, the masterful host, most happy about from this list?
I'm happy with how difficult the defensive cuts were. You know what I mean? Like I'm pleased that it was not easy. It was easy to say, like, we can make room here on offense. Like we can do this, we can whatever. I'm happy. I'm a little stunned that Azur made it, but I'm happy about it. So I'm happy that these, like, too many times that we've seen our pet cats and our projects be cut and be gone and go elsewhere. And I wouldn't say thrive, but have moderate success. I mean, what I don't want to see another Charvarius Ward. And I know that was a trade, you know what I mean? But it was a similar situation. The Cowboys gave up a little bit too early. And I'm not saying that Azur Kamara turns into Charvarius Ward. I'm not saying that Bradley Anae turns into Charvarius Ward. But I do not want to give up these defensive projects. This team needs help on the defensive side of the ball. And so to have a number of lottery tickets there, I think is a really encouraging thing. I also, this sounds cold, but I know we had the comment that talked about it's a shrewd move. I like that the Cowboys were willing to, cut Jake McQuaid. You know what I mean? I like that the Cowboys were willing to be creative. And I like, to go back to Landon's point, if they're truly that, again, I wouldn't say this makes them like visionaries or super creative, people in the front office, but to elevate Chauncey Golston, to give themselves the most opportunities. This is a front office that seemingly understands some tips and some tricks and whatever. They're kind of, to me, they're pulling off some magic tricks, you know what I mean? And we're in the crowd. I'm entertained right now. Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, it's not quite sawing a woman in half, but I mean, it's some nice work from them that has been needed for some time. I haven't felt this way about that. I haven't felt this good about the construction of it in some time. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I don't know if you're interested in doing this, but who do you think are some of the priority practice squad players that were cut today? And you Can you put that back up, because that would be easier to talk off of?
Well, 1 second, Tom. Tom's demanding all sorts of things. Who are the priority practice squad players? So we're getting the list updated. There's been some confusion about TJ Vasher's name because he's on the NFI list. So we want to make sure we're accurate here. So we're getting TJ Vasher off. Give me 1 second. I'll get that back up here for you, Tom. To fully acquiesce to your demands, because that's really what we're all about here. We're also trying to get rid of the spammers. I know that we have some, so this is tough, but okay. Who are the priority practice squad players, Tom, is your question.
I'll take a run at it for what I think they should be.
Okay. If your question, your answer, go ahead. I mean,
I will let you make the choice in case you want to jump in first.
Okay. Well, I'm going to highlight our fantastic commenters. Rudy says priority Rondo Carter.
Yes.
So that's one of them. I think you have to make sure that you get Rondo Carter back. I think beyond that, and I think the spammers are gone. So we're working on that. DJ Dog says Ralston, Rondo Carter, Aaron Parker, and Darian Thompson. I would add, I really wouldn't. Maybe Tyler Coyle. Maybe I know a lot of people like Tyler Coyle. That's not like a high priority for me. It's kind of like, if we're going to dinner, it's the bread at the restaurant I like. Like, I really like the bread, but it's not the main course, but I would like to have it. So those are my guys, Tom. Who do you have? Are you going to complain that we took all of yours?
I would add Hamilton. Okay. Like to see him on it.
Jaws 3 agrees.
Yeah, I saw Osiris Mitchell was listed as one of the players they were hoping to bring back on the practice squad. I can see that. We know that Alarcon is on because he doesn't count. He's a freebie, and
right. So nobody worry about Isaac Alarcon. He's fine. He's good.
They will have a cake waiting for him in his locker, so he'll be good to go. Now, how about this? Do you want to try to sign Garrett Gilbert to the practice squad?
Yeah, I mean, because the quarterback situation sucks, and that's not, and I mean the backup quarterback situation, and that's not saying that I have a high level of belief in Garrett Gilbert, but he's been here this whole time. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're gonna, just do it. And like, I know Marlon Estrella says no and is vehemently opposed to this, but I mean, look, and Sophie says I think he's better than Rush. Honestly, here's my. And I picked Cooper Rush to be on the 53-man roster, so I'm not trying to talk out of both sides of my mouth here. But the Cowboys devoted all of their offseason energy towards Garrett Gilbert being QB2 of this team, right? And then they just cut him. And so, I mean, if you invested that much time and energy, I mean, you might as well see this through. By the way, shout out to the Lunatic for the super chat. It says great roster building. Go Cowboys DC4L. The Lunatic, we love you. Tom, let's give the Lunatic a round of applause. Thank you so much for the super chat. So that's why I want Garrett Gilbert back, because of what's been invested at this point. We're in too deep. It's like it's like a show, Tom. Like The Walking Dead's in its final season. I don't watch it anymore. But some people, I have a lot of friends that still watch that show. They're like, look, I've come this far. You know what I mean? Like, I might as well see it through. That's how I feel about Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. That's why I was throwing him out. And outside of that, depending on what goes on with Sprinkle and McKeon, I don't think they need a tight end on the practice squad outside of maybe one of those. And I think in that case, it would probably be Sprinkle reverting back to the practice squad would be the attempt. Maybe pick one of the other wide receivers. And I think they're going to be probably going outside the roster for a lot of their other practice squad players.
I have a question about this, and I think I know the answer, but we have to ask it. All right. And let's be fair, everybody. All right. Should Ben DiNucci make the practice squad?
No.
I think, I think the answer is no. I overwhelmingly think that the answer is no. But you could argue that it is, like, in the most basic sense of the word, in the literal sense, logical to bring him in. If he's a project that McCarthy feels adamant about, fine. But still, no, I'm good without that. A lot of people say no. Rudy willing to be brave says I say yes. And all the no's are all capital letters. So it is what it is. But and John the Gray says he will, but he shouldn't. I think that's the correct take. I think he will be on there, but he should not be.
Yeah, I don't. I'm braced for that to happen, and I will grit my teeth. But we don't control that, and man's got to take care of his unofficial son, so that happens.
Okay, we've gotten this question again, so let's reset one more time. These are the 5 players on the Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster. Noah Brown was added today in the final cutdowns. So these 5 players are on the Dallas Cowboys, but they're not on their 53-man roster. They're not anywhere else. They're not on a different team. These 5 players are on the Dallas Cowboys, but they do not count against the 53-man roster, which is why you don't see them on our graphic. There are 7 players, Tom, who we are anticipating could be placed on injured reserve after now having made, quote unquote, made the 53-man roster. Josh Ball, Francis Bernard, Neville Gallimore, Chauncey Golston, Kelvin Joseph, Sean McEwen, and Malik Turner. If that happens, however many of them are put on injured reserve, it will create that many potential roster spots to be opened up on the team. Obviously, 5 are necessary for the players that are on the COVID list, which gives the Cowboys 2 extra roster spots to work with. We know that they are going to have to bring back their long snapper, Jake McQuaid, who they cut today, again, using air quotes there, to create that roster spot because they know that they can bring him back without, risking anything or whatever. That's 6 players the Cowboys will have added from these 7 potential openings. The 7th spot could be Jeremy Sprinkle because they are going to need another tight end if they do put Sean McEwen on injured reserve.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Tom, another super chat. The Lunatic feels so strongly against Ben DiNucci that he was willing to super chat to keep Ben DiNucci off of the Cowboys. Thank you again to the Lunatic. We appreciate the second super chat. You're the man. But Tom, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it lines up very logically, barring something that we just simply are unaware of. It seems like it falls too nicely into place. So, we'll have to see. We'll find out very shortly, because, this will all start to roll pretty quickly. And then I think the next 8 days are going to be the Cowboys looking long and hard at who's available off the waiver wire and also just as straight free agents out there.
Tom, Sophie asks, this is not a roster related, I guess it kind of is, but do you see Jalen improving at all? I personally don't, but I'd love to be proven wrong. We all just trashed Ben DiNucci, so I don't want to open the door for Jalen there, but I don't personally.
I hope to see Jalen used in a manner that he contributes to the team and doesn't hurt them.
Yeah, I agree. It is what it is. Okay. Yeah. Give me one player, Tom, and everybody watching. One player who was cut that you wish wasn't. And it can't be Jake McQuaid.
It would be Hamilton, I think.
That's the one?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you go Hamilton, I'll go Rondell Carter. Those are the 2.
Okay.
I don't think you can practically pick any other. Maybe you can say Nick Ralston. Maybe you can say you wish it had been Cooper instead of Garrett Gilbert. But I don't think there's one that people are, up in arms about. I can't believe you cut that guy. You know what I mean? There's no, there's no Matt Johnson here.
They avoided the, the clear ones like Kennedy. They avoided some of the kind of emotional ones like Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a surprisingly pleasing list. Initial 53-man roster.
DJ Dog says Parker. I think talking about Aaron Parker. Could be Steven Parker, but I think it's Aaron Parker. Maybe. So the inverse of that, Tom, who's one player you made it that you did not think would? That you're like, wow, I was wrong. I'm willing to eat this crow.
I guess I would have to go with Kamara. I really was kind of doubtful. Even with his special team stuff, I just figured he was going to get squeezed out because he's not a draft pick.
Jesse Ward asks, what will his role be? And I think it is on special teams. I think that's, at least for now, why they have kept him.
Yeah, and they may have an eye towards developing him for an occasional spot pass rusher, but I don't think he's ready for that quite yet.
Yeah. I think mine is Simi Fehoko. And I know there's a lot of Simi fans here,
Yeah, he
but
was my second choice.
I didn't think that would happen. I wonder, do you think if Malik hadn't gotten hurt and therefore been a candidate to be put on injured reserve, that he would have made the team?
No, I think Turner would have filled that spot.
No. I'm saying if Malik Turner hadn't gotten hurt last week.
That's what I said.
Yeah. So
Turner would likely have bumped him off. But
no, but that's my question is for Malik's purposes. If he had not gotten hurt and therefore in our present moment been eligible to be placed on injured reserve, like we're anticipating that he will be, would he have made the roster? Because if he hadn't been hurt, he wouldn't be eligible to be put on IR. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I have to admit, when you think about it, they have this attachment to their draft picks, even late round draft picks, because they hate to admit they made a mistake. So, in my judgment, Turner had earned the right to make the roster, but I'm not too sure the staff would have looked at it the same way. Going on our IR may be the best thing for him because at least he gets a paycheck out of it and a chance to maybe come back later because, they may need another wide receiver at some point.
So let me say this then, because I agree with you. Now, look, Joseph says that Simi has more potential than Malik Turner. I agree with that on paper, but Malik had been the better player this preseason. That's our point right now. I think Malik getting hurt could have opened up a roster spot for Simi Fehoko. I think that's what you're saying, Tom, is that if with Malik being now eligible for IR, that keeps Simi around at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't have anything to correct on that, really.
Yeah. Now Michael says they should have cut Simi. Again, I don't know that I would say should have, but it made sense if they had done it, but they didn't. This was a really and look, this is what DeLunatic says. Turner's injury opened the door for Simi. Otherwise, it was a no-brainer keeping 6 wide receivers. I agree. I mean, I think that really worked well for Simi Fehoko right now in the moment. You could maybe say the same thing about Kelvin Joseph and Maurice Kennedy. You know what I mean? Like we talked about, we said the same thing about Francis Bernard and Luke Gifford. Those IR spots right now are really working for, some potential players, at least for the next couple of weeks, next month, so to speak.
Well, what's amazing to me is that they found a way to keep Fehoko on the roster, and yet they're only carrying 22 offensive players. It didn't cost them somewhere else. And yeah, they're going awful light on offense, but yeah, this is a very interesting roster, and I kind of like it.
Yeah. This is now nothing to do with football, Tom. Do you think that we'll see these cuts on Hard Knocks tonight? Because that's generally how Hard Knocks works. However, in case anyone hasn't really realized this season has been different, the season of Hard Knocks, and there is one more episode next week. So I do wonder if they save all that, a little bit more editing, a little bit more glossing up. And also if they save it till next week, they can kind of, they can do all the injured reserve and stuff, and they can really kind of show the actual roster ahead of the Tampa Bay game.
And they can show somebody getting signed to the practice squad and feeling really relieved that his dream isn't over. Yeah, that's my thinking, is that next week is going to be the cuts. I don't know what we're likely to see tonight other than I guess they preview
the Jaguars game. Ben DiNucci, baby.
Oh, yeah, big thrill.
We'll see that Malik Turner catch. You'll see Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? We'll see all that. So, hey, speaking of Hard Knocks, tonight we will be live here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. As soon as the episode ends, run over here. We'll see if Tom will join us. He has before. So, Tom, are you in? I'm just asking you now.
I will do it for
Tom
you.
will be here tonight, 10 p.m. Central Time. As soon as the episode of Hard Knocks is over, come on over. We'll talk. We'll also have some final thoughts on the 53-man roster with the dust having settled a little bit. Subscribe, please, here to the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. We have multiple videos that come out every week. We do live streams every week. We do them every Tuesday. We do a live stream after every single Dallas Cowboys game. It's our post game. We talk, we discuss, we analyze. We cry, we mourn, we celebrate, we scream, we have good times. We have highlight videos that come out the day after every single Dallas Cowboys game. We're working very hard to make sure that you, the loyal Dallas Cowboys fan, are taken care of. With football season officially here, you can follow Tom on Twitter at TomRyleBTB. You can follow me on Twitter at RJ Ochoa. Shout out again to DeLunatic for the super chats today on the stream. Yeah, Tom, any final words? Anything else? Anything you want to get off your chest before we check out?
Football's coming.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you tonight.